Okay, fifth graders, it's science time. 2 weeks ago, you wrote a 5 or 6 paragraph essay on the different parts of the Earth systems, and that's by and large what this first video is going to be on. I'd like you to take notes. There will be questions. Well, there will be a quiz on Friday on basically what we take notes on for Monday through Thursday. I don't want to make these videos too long because you're going to be writing, and you'll need to do different amounts of effort here. So I don't want to do a ton of that. Excuse me. So to begin with, the Earth's systems. The big question we're going to ask is, what are Earth's 4 systems? And you know this already because, like I said, you wrote the essay on it. But just as a review, the 4 Earth systems are the atmosphere, the geosphere, the hydrosphere, and the biosphere. So there's kind of a picture of all of them. We're going to go through some of these quickly. All right, the atmosphere. Now I'd like you to take notes on what's on the page here. The atmosphere is composed of, or made up of, these gases. Not just these gases, but these are the most common ones in there. Nitrogen, oxygen, you have water vapor. Of course, the water vapor are clouds. And then carbon dioxide. Those are all very important gases for us in the atmosphere. But the atmosphere is made up of several different layers. Whoops, I'm going to go back here. It's made up of several different layers. And if we can see this here, the layer closest to the Earth is called the troposphere. So we have the troposphere. And that's important because that's the layer we live in. The troposphere is about 10 kilometers wide, I guess you could say, or it's deep. So it goes up 10 kilometers into the air. Most of our weather occurs here. And, interesting, the higher up you go, the colder it gets. Once you get into the stratosphere, which is the second layer, that's it right here. That's the layer that your jet airplanes travel through. So when you fly between countries, you're going up into the stratosphere. What's important about the stratosphere is that it contains the ozone layer. And the ozone layer protects us from a lot of the sun's radiations. It keeps in the warmth of the Earth. It's important to have because it's a protective layer for us. And then, the higher you go up in the ozone, the warmer it gets because that air gets trapped in there. And it keeps us safe. Above the stratosphere is the mesosphere. Now, the mesosphere, this is the layer where if you see meteorites or meteors coming towards Earth, that's the layer they burn up in. It gets really hot, and with friction, and they burn up. Air in this layer is too thin to breathe. If you were in this layer and you were trying to breathe the air, you wouldn't be able to. It's just too thin. There's not enough oxygen in it. Above the mesosphere is the thermosphere. And the thermosphere it's more like space than the atmosphere, but it's still considered our atmosphere. There's actually some satellites that are located in the thermosphere, and the northern lights occur there. So you can see there's actually got some pictures there. That little green thing would be the northern lights, and you have a satellite there. So that's the usefulness of the thermosphere. Then finally, the last one is the exosphere, and this is where space really begins, and our atmosphere ends. There's no set depth to it. It has different widths, I guess you could say, and it's basically where space meets our atmosphere, or the outer edges of it. So I would like you to know the 5 layers of our atmosphere. All right, the next part of our Earth systems is the geosphere. And this would be the Earth's surface, more or less. So in the geosphere, we have solid rock, we have melted rock, and that would be from volcanoes and lava and that sort of thing. We also have the soil, which is very important for us to grow things. You guys last week learned about topsoil and well, you learned all about topsoil. It includes the hills. It's basically the landforms. You got mountains, volcanoes, all of those sorts of things, including the ocean floor. So the geosphere really contains everything, all the landforms on Earth. And that would be a big thing to remember. You can write all these things down, but by and large, just remember that the geosphere includes all of the Earth's surface landforms. Next up in our Earth systems is the hydrosphere. So, all of these words have Greek and Latin affixes on it. So sphere means circle or ball or something like that. It's not quite circular, it's a little off. And then the prefix for all of these describes the sphere. So hydro is the word for water in I think it's ancient Greek. And so everything in the hydrosphere includes any kind of water. So that includes the oceans, lakes, rivers, glaciers, ice caps. It includes water vapor as well. So that includes the clouds. And I think it would also include groundwater, water that's underground that we don't see. People build wells, and those wells are used to tap into that water. So the hydrosphere is very important because it includes all of the Earth's water. The final sphere we're going to look at is the biosphere. So bio means life. So ultimately this means life sphere. And this is where all life on Earth takes place. So it includes all living things. So you have your plants, your animals, people. It includes all those things. So anything that's really alive is a part of the biosphere. Doesn't matter if it's underground or in the air, it's all part of the biosphere. And so that is something I want you to take notes on. Just know that the biosphere includes all living things that include plants, animals, and people. Now the thing about all of these four systems, which you should be able to answer by now what the four systems are. They're the biosphere, the geosphere, the hydrosphere, and the atmosphere. They all interact. They aren't separate spheres. They all work together. They overlap. So if you're in the biosphere, you're living, but you need the atmosphere to breathe, and you need the geosphere to be able to walk. They all overlap. They all need to work together. And so what you're going to do now is I'm going to put in a link for a YouTube video, and I'd like you to watch a YouTube video and be able to explain one example of how these systems work together. So you will need to explain how these spheres can work together. It might be one or two working together, it might be all four working together. But I would like you to write a short paragraph on how they work together and then submit that on Class Dojo.